Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. It's me from South Carolina. And today I want to share a true story with you about some strange noises I heard when I was in the military. It's a story that I haven't shared before, but I think it fits perfectly for this channel. I do want to let you know that all names have been changed to protect the privacy of the people involved. So sit back and relax and get ready to hear the story of I heard knocking inside the walls. The year was 1993, and I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is home to some of the most elite military units in the United States. More specifically, I was stationed at Pope Air Force Base, which shares the same installation with Bragg. My job at the time was a Tactical Air Control Party, or TAC journeyman, and we were attached to the 4th Civil Engineer Squadron. If you're not familiar with what a TACP is, they are a special warfare career field under the Air Force. And just like Special Forces, we jump out of airplanes, helicopters, and even hot drop into situations. Our primary mission set is to control air power on the battlefield. We typically work directly with Army infantry, and we assist them with close air support, or CAS, and other air-related assets such as air defense and even airlift. So you could say that we kind of wear a lot of different hats. The base where I was stationed had barracks for enlisted personnel and officers. All the buildings were two-story structures made out of concrete. But one day I was hanging around the barracks talking to my friends. It was around midday and it was summertime, so it was really hot outside. So naturally we decided to go up on the roof to catch a breeze. There was no air conditioning on the roof, but it was a little cooler up there than it was down below. At this point, I had been in the Air Force for several years, so I had been exposed to some pretty wild things. But what I was about to see and hear would forever be ingrained into my memory. As we were walking on the roof, my buddy Jeff and I noticed something that looked like a hole in the wall. At first glance, it didn't look like much. It was just a small section of the concrete block wall that was missing. But as we got closer, we started to notice small scratches in the paint on the roof, almost like somebody had been clawing their way up the wall. But how someone would be able to do that without leaving any markings was beyond me. After inspecting the area a little more, we saw what looked like small handprints in the tar that had solidified over the years, but those shouldn't have been there. And at that point, I knew we needed to call the base security forces. They were the only ones who would believe what we were saying. Once we got our story straight, reported it to the duty NCO. He gave us a knowing look and told us that he would send someone up to check it out. Within minutes, a couple of military policemen showed up, but their response was less than enthusiastic. Basically, they didn't believe us and thought we were just trying to cause some trouble. But after seeing the evidence for ourselves, they agreed to investigate further. As the MPs began their investigation, my buddies and I couldn't help but wonder what could possibly be going on. We had never seen anything like this before. After the MPs left, we went back to our normal routine, trying to forget about the strange things we had seen. But that proved to be difficult. That evening, while I was getting ready for bed, I heard a loud knocking sound coming from inside the wall. I thought it was just some pranksters messing around, but the noise continued long after they had gone. I couldn't take it anymore, so I called the MPs again. When they arrived, I brought them right to the wall where I had heard the noise. Of course, nothing happened that night, so they ended up leaving. I laid in my bunk that night wondering what in the world was going on. In the morning after, I went to work. That afternoon, I came back to the barracks to find the MPs waiting for me. Apparently, they had stayed overnight and waited for whoever was making the noise to make it again. And of course, I was curious to hear their explanation. But as I approached them, I noticed that they were looking very serious. I should have known right then and there that whatever they were about to tell me was going to be serious. They explained that they had waited all night and heard the exact same knocking sound that I had heard. And as I listened to their description, I realized that this was no prank. This was something real and something dangerous. I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but I knew in my heart that it was true. Over the next few days, the MPs tried everything they could to figure out what was going on. They brought in dogs, set up cameras, and even bugged the room next to mine. But nothing turned up any results. It was like whatever was making the noise just didn't want to be found. The knocking continued every night, though, and it was getting louder. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed my stuff and left the base. I drove around for a few hours trying to get away from the noise, but wherever I went, it seemed to follow me. I could hear it in my dreams. It was driving me crazy. When I finally returned to the barracks, I went straight to the MPs to tell them I couldn't take it anymore. I was desperate for an answer, for some kind of resolution to this nightmare. But all they could do was shake their heads and apologize. They were just as helpless as I was. But then something unexpected happened. One of the MPs came up with an idea. He suggested that we try recording the noise in the hopes that we could pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. So we did. We set up a recorder outside my room and waited for it to start. The next morning, the MP played the recording back, and we all listened intently. At first, we couldn't hear anything. Then suddenly, the knocking started. It was exactly the same sound that I had heard, but now it was amplified, and there was no mistaking it. The knocking was definitely coming from inside the wall. From that day forward, the MPs were determined to solve the mystery. They brought in a team of experts who drilled a small hole into the wall and inserted a listening device. Finally, they had a lead. They discovered that the knocking was coming from a small crawl space between the inner and outer walls. But what was in that crawl space? Who was making all that noise? They decided to seal off the crawl space and see if the knocking would stop. And wouldn't you know it, it worked. The knocking stopped, but now we were left with more questions than answers. What was that noise? Why was it happening? Most importantly, who was making it? We never did find out the answers to those questions, but I know one thing. To this day, I can still hear the knocking if I listen closely. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. I would greatly appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe for more great stories. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again for watching. Take care.